Strap yourselves in, English winners. Today we're going to do a big one. ED endings. So, like I said, ED endings are a big one, okay? They are everywhere in the English language, and you need to learn how to pronounce them effectively. First off, some language trouble spots. Spanish speakers, they'll say "ed" instead of "id." Now, learning how to separate "e" from "I" is a subject for another video, but I might go into it a little bit here. Spanish speakers will also add the "ed" sound to every ED ending, whether it fits or not, like "stopid" or "wished." And this is something that Asian speakers tend to do too. They'll add an extra syllable at the end. So they'll say "wished" or "stopid." And only some ED endings have the extra syllable. How do you know? I'll explain it. That's okay. I will explain everything. And then lastly, even when they learn how to do it technically correct, like wished or stopped or fried, they'll add an extra syllable after the end of the word. So wished, stopped, fried. So we need to drop that extra syllable. So there are three types of ED endings. The first one is TED endings. You'll see this with examples like stopped, wished, slipped. Then we have DED endings. These are ED endings with the D sound at the end, like dried, hurried, happened. Last, we have ID endings. This is where we add an extra syllable to the end of the word. Wanted, needed, printed. If you want to know how to speak and pronounce the T and the D sounds, that's the subject for another video. I will include that video as a link at the end of this video. But basically, the T sound, your tongue is touching the top of your mouth, and then when you're doing the D sound, you're doing the same thing, but turning on the vocal cords here. D, D, all right? So id, that's the other syllable. And you're probably wondering, if you keep saying ed instead of id, how do you say id? Well, I'll tell you. With ed, the tip of your tongue in the front is touching the bottom of your mouth, just behind your upper front teeth, while the back of your tongue is curved up. That's the E sound. We don't want E, we want I. So how do we do that? Well, the front of your tongue is in the exact same place, just behind your lower front teeth. But the rest of your tongue is just barely touching the bottom of your mouth, going all the way back to the back of your tongue. So it doesn't curve up, it just kind of slightly hovers above the floor of your mouth, barely touching the bottom. I. And remember, your face and mouth should be relaxed. Wished, wished, wished. Needed, needed, needed. Okay? Good. So how do you know which ED endings have a T, like wished? How many of them have a DED ending, like dried? And how do you know which ones have an id syllable, like needed? Well, here's where we explain. So let's go over the first ED ending. We'll have words like this: wanted, needed, printed, invented, attracted. I want you to notice something very careful here. Attract, need, want, print. What do they all have in common? They all have a T or a D at the end of the word. And so whenever you see a T or a D at the end of a word, followed by ED, this is the extra syllable id. Attracted, wanted, needed. Understand? Excellent. Let's go to the next one. Second, we have a TED ending. I'll explain to you how to determine which ED word is a TED ending. Let's go into that. So take a look at these words: snapped, laughed, passed, wished, watched, and liked. Now look at the letters next to them. P, P, F, S, S, sh, wished, ch for watched, and finally K, K, and liked. These 6 consonants or sounds that have consonants in them are all the words that have to do with the TED ending. If any of your words end with P, F, S, SH, CH, or K, you know that the ED ending is going to have a T sound. Liked, snapped, wished, watched, laughed. Now this takes a little bit of time to remember, but if you practice over time, like maybe reading books and keeping maybe a simple chart next to you explaining that, you'll get used to doing that naturally without even thinking about it. Okay? Let's go on to the DED ending. Let's go on to the DED ending. DED endings, all the rest of the consonants and sounds that happen at the end of words have a DED ending to them. Let's look at some words on the board. Opposed, strived, obliged, begged, betrayed, towed. Notice none of those words have the 6 consonants I told you were connected with the TED ending, like P, F, S, SH, CH, or K. So if they don't have those letters, it's D sounding ED ending. Let's practice some words. This was a long one, right? But we're gonna get a little bit of practice so you can start learning how to tell the difference between T, D, and id, ED endings. Let's go to the words. That's a lot of words. So we're gonna go through it. I may need to look back and forth, but we're gonna go just left, right, left, right, left, right, until we get to the bottom. And you're welcome to stop and guess which ones have a TED ending, which ones have a DED ending, and which ones have the id syllable. So pause the video, read them to yourself, and guess which ones are which, and then go through the video and we'll go through each of them together, okay? Let's do it. All right, I'm gonna read the words now. Believed, tarnished, rugged, studied, wrapped, headed, dropped, joined, continued, treated, coated, promised, walked, lied, decided, and spied. All right, how did you do? You're welcome to go through it more than once if it helps you get better. In fact, I invite you to go through it more than once to learn the difference. Until then, I'm going to put some sentences up. Sentence time. I stopped buying dried fruit because I no longer needed it. I stopped buying dried fruit because I no longer needed it. The wood was treated with a paint that protected it from rain damage. The wood was treated with a paint that protected it from rain damage. If you promised to help, you should have obliged as soon as you were asked. If you promised to help, you should have obliged as soon as you were asked. We headed to America, a land filled with opportunities. We headed to America, a land filled with opportunities. She believed she would improve if she continued to practice. She believed she would improve if she continued to practice. So, that's it for our ED endings. I may have a supplementary ED ending video in the future. Until then, if you like this video, please subscribe down below. Let me know in the comments if you liked it. In the meantime, check out my Good to Know playlist and also the video I promised on T and D pronunciation. Until then, keep on winning, English winners. I'll see you later.